Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey!
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
As an example, I own the Miss Universe. I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently. And I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer.
What exactly is your relationship with Vladimir Putin?
I have no relationship with Putin. I have no relationship with Putin.
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin, a conversational relationship, or anything that you feel you have sway or influence over his government?
I do have a relationship, and I can tell you that he's very interested in what we're doing here today. He's probably very interested in what you and I are saying today, and I'm sure he's going to be seeing it in some form.
But I just want to clear this up, because you did say on 3 different occasions you had a relationship with him. Now you say there is none.
Well, I don't know what it means by having a relationship. I mean, he was saying very good things about me, but I don't have a relationship with him. I didn't meet him. I haven't spent time with him. I didn't have dinner with him. I didn't go hiking with him. I don't know. I wouldn't know him from Adam, except I see his picture and I would know what he looks like.
I was in Moscow a couple of months ago. I owned the Miss Universe pageant, and they treated me so great. Putin even sent me a present, beautiful present with a beautiful note. I spoke to all of his people.
I was in Russia. I was in Moscow recently, and I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin, who could not have been nicer. I have nothing to do with Russia. Nothing to do. I never met Putin. Nothing to do with Russia whatsoever.
So you have no loans from Russian banks or investors?
Absolutely not. As far as the Ukraine is concerned, and you could say Syria, as far as Syria, I like if Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well because we were both on 60 Minutes. We were stablemates, and we did very well that night. But you know that. But if Putin wants to go and knock the hell... We did 60 Minutes together, by the way, not together, meaning he was probably shot in Moscow.
Well, he was in Moscow, you were in New York. But that's the thing.
No, just so you understand, he said very nice things about me, but I have no relationship with him.
Yeah, you said for 3 years, 13, 14, and 15, that you did have a relationship with him.
No, look, what do you call a relationship? I mean, he treats me with great respect. I have no relationship with Putin. I don't think I've ever met him. I never met him. I don't think I've ever met him.
You would know it if you did, wouldn't you?
I think so, yeah, I think so. So I don't think I've ever met him. I mean, if he's in the same room or something, but I don't think so.
Never spoken to him on the phone?
I've been in Moscow. I didn't meet him in Moscow. Where?
Never spoken to him on the phone?
I have never spoken to him on the phone, no. I've spoken when we had the Miss Universe contest a number of years ago. We had Miss Universe in Moscow, in the Moscow area. He was invited. He wanted to come. He wasn't able to come. That would have been a time when I would have met him.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
I thought he had like the best memory in the whole wide world. I thought he remembered everything all the time. So here he is, 2013, 14, 15. Yes, I have a relationship with Putin. In fact, he's very interested in what's going on here. And, he's probably watching this now. And, he said great things about me. And he gave me a present. And, he's just, we're in a relationship. We're bros. I love him. I don't know who Putin is. I have no idea. I never met Vladimir Putin. I wouldn't know him if, except that I see his pictures. That's all it is. And now Trump doesn't remember much about a meeting that was conducted back in March of 2016. I mean, this guy has the greatest memory ever, right? He went to an Ivy League school. He was a nice student. He has one of the world's greatest memories, he said. One of the world's greatest memories. But he doesn't remember the 2016 Putin meeting. He doesn't remember that George Papadopoulos, in a meeting in March 2016, told Donald Trump that the Russians wanted to sit down with him because they were pro-Trump's candidacy and they had dirt on Hillary Clinton and they wanted to sit down and talk to him. Trump, in that meeting, did not dismiss that idea. He didn't say no to that idea. Okay, so that's one thing. Yesterday, Carter Page told the House Intelligence Committee that he told, not only did Papadopoulos bring up the Russians, but also that Carter Page told Jeff Sessions at a dinner that included the national security advisors to then candidate Donald Trump that he was going to take a trip to Russia, just as George Papadopoulos said somebody from the campaign should, just as what's his name, Sam Clovis, who, by the way, withdrew his name today from yesterday from to be head science advisor to the Department of Agriculture. Turns out he has no background in science and or agriculture. That's another topic. We'll get there today. However, Carter Page told the House Intelligence Committee that he did tell Jeff Sessions that he was going to go to Russia after Sam Clovis praised George Papadopoulos for doing good work to connect Russia with the Trump campaign. And Jeff Sessions said under oath that he didn't remember, any interference or any talks with Russians or anybody in the campaign ever being approached by or speaking to Russians, even though he's copied on all these George Papadopoulos emails. And yesterday, Carter Page says, no, I told Jeff Sessions I was going to go to Russia.
We're just learning at this moment here some breaking news. The former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page testifying under oath today to the House Intelligence Committee. And we are learning that Page made a stunning statement. Page told the committee that he directly told now Attorney General Jeff Sessions that he was going to Moscow in July 2016. That, of course, would be during the presidential campaign. Now, this is crucial. He just said it under oath. It comes as Jeff Sessions told Congress that he knew nothing about any Trump campaign official having a contact at any time with Russians.
That's a piece of information that's semi-important, don't you think? Even if you're a Republican, if you're not a Republican, it's very important. If you're one of the 30%, who, by the way, 25% of the 30% don't know what's going on in this Russia investigation. There was a poll today that just came out. It's an ABC poll. Most Americans approve of the Trump-Russia probe. Nearly half of America believes that their president did commit a crime. Half of America thinks that Trump did something wrong by colluding with Russia and getting cooperation from and cooperating with Russia. And that's pretty impressive given that 30% of this country don't believe it's possible for Trump to do anything wrong. But of those 30% who think that Trump can never do anything wrong, 25%, according to this poll, have no idea what's going on in this investigation. So you got a quarter of the 30% in this country who think Trump can do nothing wrong but have no idea that Carter Page, George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to being all wrapped up with the Russians, to bringing Russians, that Junior had the meeting with the Russians in June, and that Carter Page in July goes to Russia, and that Jeff Sessions testifies to Al Franken's question that he has no knowledge of anyone on the campaign ever having anything to do with any Russians, even though it comes out later that Jeff Sessions met with Ambassador Kislyak of Russia 3 times, and 3 times Jeff Sessions had to update his testimony because if he didn't, he would already be convicted of perjury.
How did Facebook?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is something else. Wait.
If there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
That was the beginning, and then he went back and said this.
I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign. I was your colleague in this body for 20 years, at least some of you, and and the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process, is an appalling and detestable lie.
Okay, so here you have Papadopoulos telling Jeff Sessions about going to Russia. Paul Manafort says, we need to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't take this meeting. We need to make sure a low-level person takes this meeting with Russians in Russia about the campaign. Paul Manafort also briefs the Russians after he becomes campaign manager. He tells Oleg Deripaska, an oligarch close to Putin, that his position in the campaign as the campaign manager will allow him to brief the Russians on the campaign, and he'd like to use his position as Trump's campaign manager, this chief executive of the Trump campaign, as a way to make him whole over this lawsuit that Oleg Deripaska has suing Paul Manafort for $26 million for work he was paid to do for the Russians, but Oleg Deripaska felt he did not produce, having to do with setting up a media company. Now, in 2005, Paul Manafort wrote a blueprint for how to influence the American democracy, how to tear it apart, basically. And what he said was, first, you have to control some of the media, you have to control the party, and you have to control, all of politics. You have to, get somebody very high-powered into the office and infiltrate the campaigns. It's exactly what Manafort did. But okay, so now we have Papadopoulos, who tells Sessions about these repeated overtures by the Russians to help Donald Trump. And yesterday, you have Carter Page under oath saying that Sessions was told about his trip to Russia. You also now know that Jared Kushner turned over documents, and he was in the meeting at Trump Tower with the Russian government attorney and with a Russian oligarch, the Argarilar family, with an interpreter, and with Natalia Veselnitskaya, who is obviously working for the Russian government as a Russian spy, posing as a Russian attorney. All right, so you have all this. You have all this going on. And Jeff Sessions, gives this testimony that he's unaware of all of this stuff, even though you have people testifying that they told him about this stuff. Now, what's interesting about Papadopoulos telling Jeff Sessions this stuff, and what's interesting about Carter Page saying this under oath, is that Papadopoulos had to plead guilty to lying to the FBI, and now is probably, was wearing a wire for many, many months, and probably has them on tape talking about this stuff. And Carter Page under oath now says, but I told Jeff Sessions I was going. There are travel agencies that don't hear this much about Russian travel as Jeff Sessions did. So the Democrats would like Jeff Sessions to come and testify to Congress again. At the very least, to force him to lie under oath again. And a small little sliver of a chance that he may ever tell the truth, that suddenly he'll remember. Actually, yesterday he told the Daily News in New York that he suddenly remembers Papadopoulos talking to him about a trip to Russia, but now he suddenly remembers that he rejected the idea. Whereas the 3 times he's testified under oath before, he didn't remember that anyone in the campaign ever approached him with any connections to any Russian ever. Of course, subsequently, he also remembered meeting Sergei Kislyak 3 times. Best memories in the world, everybody.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey guys, it's Scotty, Randy's producer here, and as many of you know, I grew up in Randy's house. Eating her food, watching her TV, and like most kids, ignorantly not following her advice. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was never take a job in radio because the big companies that run radio, they suck. Well, I didn't listen and ended up working in radio. And as always, Randi was right. They sucked. But I'm here now, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of chutzpah to break away from the big companies and start your own show. But you know what else it takes? Your support. We are independent media, so the only financial backers we have are you, the best listeners in the world. And we can't do it without you. So please go to randirhodes.com and support the show, buy a stinking podcast, donate some money, and keep us going.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
Whether you're listening to me, Mark Levine, each Monday and Wednesday,
or me, Leslie Marshall, each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday,
you can hear us 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Donald Trump had a bit of a problem with another Gold Star family. You know, of course, that 4 Americans were killed in Niger. People want to know answers. So after Donald Trump said nothing about it for more than a week, finally a reporter said to him, are you going to say anything about the people who died in Niger? In Donald Trump's inimitable way, basically screwed it up, said, knew what he was getting into, but I guess it still hurts. The president is not the best at compassion. He doesn't have it, and he doesn't fake it well. He could have let it go. But of course he didn't. And he went on what he always does when people criticize him, to blame everyone. Again, that's Mark Levine every Monday and Wednesday.
And Leslie Marshall each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
All things Randi at randirhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Let me ask you about some of the things you've said about Vladimir Putin. You said, I will tell you, in terms of leadership, he's getting an A. Our president is not doing so well. And when referring to a comment that Putin made about you, I think he called you a brilliant leader, you said it's always a great honor to be so nicely complimented by a man so highly respected within his country and beyond.
Well, he does have an 82% approval rating, according to the different pollsters, who, by the way, some of them are based right here. Look.
He's also a guy who annexed Crimea, invaded Ukraine, supports Assad in Syria, supports Iran, is trying to undermine our influence in key regions of the world, and according to our intelligence community, probably is the main suspect for the hacking of the DNC computers.
Well, nobody knows that for a fact, but
what?
You want me to start naming some of the things that President Obama does?
But do you want to be complimented by that former KGB officer?
Well, I think when he calls me brilliant, I'll take the compliment, okay?
All right. So remember Donald Trump, of course, you know that he praised the Putin. And during the presidential debate, it came up that the Russians had hacked into the Democratic National Committee. We did not know at that time that they had also hacked into 21 states' voter registration rolls. We do now. And as of today, we know that the United States has identified the Russian government hackers who breached the DNC. I don't know if you read the paper today, but federal investigators have identified 5 or 6 individuals that they know worked for Russia's military spy agency. For those of you who are Malcolm Nance fans, you know we call them the GRU. That is Russia's military spy agency. Okay, the GRU, and that they hacked the DNC. The GRU is just one of 2 Russian spy agencies that hacked the Democratic committee. It's the one that was noted by U.S. intelligence agencies early in this investigation. January, actually, was when that report came out that the four main intelligence agencies discovered that it was Russia that hacked into the DNC, and all the other intelligence agencies signed on to that conclusion. But and the report stated, this was the sentence in the report that came out, the GRU, quote, probably began cyber operations aimed at the U.S. election in March of 2016. You know what's interesting about this March of 2016 that they've now identified as the start date? That is also when George Papadopoulos starts saying the Russians want to help you and they've got dirt on Hillary Clinton. It's the same date, right? It's the same date that Papadopoulos tells Sessions somebody really needs to meet with Vladimir Putin or go to Russia and get this information. They got dirt on Hillary Clinton, March 2016. It's the same date. Okay. Now the report concludes, the investigation has been completed, and now it concludes that the GRU operations resulted in the compromise of the personal email accounts of Democratic Party officials and political figures, and that by May, the GRU had exfiltrated large volumes of data from the DNC, and now also separately, that's the Department of Justice, okay, that identified the contractors who carried out the hacking activities on behalf of the GRU. Separately today, we learn that the FBI has identified at least one person who was posing as Guccifer 2.0, who Roger Stone is tweeting with. And yes, he is a Russian intelligence operator. Now, he claimed to be a Romanian hacker, but he's not. He's a Russian intelligence operator. The GRU used, this is what the FBI concluded, the GRU used the Guccifer 2.0 persona and two separate websites to release the data hacked from the Democrats. They conclude it's likely that more than one intelligence operator was posing as Guccifer 2.0 from the Russians, from the Russian spy agency. They say that the DNC hackers are a separate group from the Guccifer 2.0 people. And here are the field offices that are the FBI investigation into the cyber operations that were conducted upon us by Russia, the cyber war that was conducted upon us to upend our democracy, was being conducted by a variety of our FBI field offices. Just so you know, San Francisco handles Guccifer 2.0. And Pittsburgh and Houston FBI, their field offices, they handle the GRU hackers. And Washington, D.C. focuses on another group that we had learned was called Cozy Bear. Remember? Cozy Bear and Apartment 29. Now, those two groups belong to a different part of the Russian intelligence apparatus. They belong to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, or the SVR. So we now know that, and we've known this for a really long time.
I don't think anybody knows it was Russia that broke into the DNC. She's saying Russia, 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 but maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay?
No, not okay. Your intelligence agencies told you way back in January, or actually they knew in March, that the DNC had been hacked and that it was Russians that did the hacking. And he's still insisting all this time that it could have been a 400-pound guy sitting. Well, that 400-pound guy is actually a number of Russian operatives. Maybe altogether they weigh 400 pounds. I don't know. But 18 of the hackers were from the SVR, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. 18 of them are from the GRU, and one of them was from the FSB, which is the KGB. Isn't it fascinating? And of course, Jeff Sessions, he don't know nothing about nobody.
I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign.
Except for George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, who actually went to Russia and told you he was going to Russia, and Roger Stone, who is tweeting with Guccifer 2.0. Other than that, that would be true. He told the absolute truth. Other than those three things. A fourth thing, he met with Ambassador Kislyak 3 times and left that out as well. So why are they all lying under oath? Because they had help. They had help with elections. They had help with identifying voters, likely Hillary voters. Do you ever wonder why these Facebook ads, they say, oh, some of them were posing as Black Lives Matter and some of them were posing as pro-Trump and, they were playing both sides. No, they weren't playing both sides. They were identifying people's voting profiles. They were identifying who needed to be suppressed in their vote and who needed to be pumped up. That's what they were doing for Donald Trump. And that's how Donald Trump knew which state to go to. That's how Donald Trump's entire campaign was operating. They were looking at all the data that they were getting. And they were getting help getting all this data from Facebook, from Twitter, from bots, from retweets, and all this data was being collected. And, now we know that this whole Russia investigation, as half of America believes it's not, twice as many Americans approve of Robert Mueller's investigation than don't. Okay, 58% of America believes that Mueller is doing the right thing by doing this investigation. 28% say they disapprove. Again, you're always going to have this 30% of America that thinks that anybody who is sufficiently racist can do no harm, can do nothing wrong. But what's really interesting in these numbers is 25%, a quarter of the 30%, don't even know what's going on, which helps if you support Trump. It must be very helpful to you. But 58% say they approve of Mueller's handling of the investigation. 28% say they disapprove. 40% say that only 40%, 60% don't. 40% think Trump is cooperating with the investigation. 60% don't think he's cooperating. And I got news for you. He's not cooperating.
Every time Russia's brought up, they say, oh, Trump. What do I have to do with it? I have nothing to do with Russia, folks, okay?
During the election?
No, nobody that I know of.
So you're not aware of any context during the course of the election?
How many times do I have to answer this question?
Can you just say
Russia
yes or no
is a ruse. Yeah, I know you have to get up and ask a question, so important. Russia is a ruse. I have nothing to do with Russia. Haven't made a phone call to Russia in years. Don't speak to people from Russia. Not that I wouldn't. I just have nobody to speak to.
Oh, George does.
There is no collusion between me and my campaign and the Russians.
But the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign. But I can always speak for myself and the Russians. Zero.
There has been no...
Now, that was interesting. I can only speak for myself and the Russians. Isn't that something? He doesn't talk to any Russians. He wouldn't know who to call. George Papadopoulos could have given you names of people to call. I think he probably did. Your son, Donald Trump Jr., he knew exactly who to meet with because they showed up at Trump Tower. Jeff Sessions knew that Carter Page was going to Russia. He could have told you people that he was meeting with because Carter Page says he met with business people in Russia. He said he met with scholars and business leaders in Russia. It's interesting with the scholars cause George Papadopoulos said that the people who were, who wanted to meet Donald Trump, one was posing as a professor, a Russian scholar. Just so interesting how small this group is of scholars and businessmen like Oleg Deripaska, who, by the way, Paul Manafort, the CEO of your campaign, knew really, really well because he was telling him, I'll brief you on the entire campaign as long as you wipe out the debt that I owe you. It's just he wouldn't know who to talk to, but he can only speak for himself and the Russians. What an interesting thing for this man to say. Anyway, we now know that, yes, indeed, Russia did hack. We also now know that Carter Page not only told under oath the House Intelligence Committee that he told Jeff Sessions he was going to travel to Russia at a dinner that was held for Trump's foreign policy shop, which included George Papadopoulos and Carter Page, and that group, contrary to poor little Sarah Sanders, who lied, the other day and from the podium said they were all volunteers. Well, Trump is a volunteer too. Shout out to Connie. Connie said to me, Trump is a volunteer president because he's only getting $1 a year and he's worth every penny. That was Connie. All right, Connie. Good one. So I told her I'd give her a shout out. But I mean, honest to God, man, everybody knew somebody, and everybody's briefing everybody in Russia about everything that's going on here while Russia is hacking. Sessions knows about it. He's meeting with Ambassador Kislyak. And by the way, Ambassador Kislyak also gave his statement to the investigators. And you know what his statement was? Jeff Sessions said they didn't talk about anything having to do with the campaign or any Russian foreign policy. Yeah, whoops, Kislyak says they talked about sanctions. Papadopoulos said they talked about sanctions. Carter Page said sanctions may have come up. And by the way, Carter Page, I don't even know. This is like a question for a lawyer with a higher pay grade. We should ask, maybe I will over the weekend. I'll ask a couple of the big constitutional guys out there whether or not you can do this. But Carter Page took the Fifth Amendment yesterday. But only on documents. He won't produce his documents. He says his documents might incriminate him. And so he invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to turn over documents. But he began and continued to testify orally for 7 hours. I'm not sure you can split that baby. I'm not really clear that you can invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege and then continue to testify. I know you can't do that orally. I know that if I went in front of Congress and I was sworn in, and then they began to ask me questions, and I said, Senator, with all due respect, I am invoking my right to take the Fifth Amendment, under counsel of my lawyers, I'm taking the Fifth Amendment. If they asked me, like what day it is after that, I would have to say, Senator, under advice of legal counsel, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment privilege. If I said today is Friday, you bastard, please support the show. It's the first week of the month, and all the bills got paid, and it came to about $12,500 this month. It's crazy. Crazy, I tell you. So please do go to randyrhodes.com/support and just make a donation, or buy a stinking podcast, and, you could do that at randyrhodes.com/shop. But if you answer the question after you invoke your Fifth, then you have waived it. So how is it possible that he could take the Fifth on document productions, which he was subpoenaed? It's called a subpoena ducis tecum, which means bring the papers. And he invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege and said that he was going to withhold all of his documents. But then he testified yesterday in front of the House Intelligence Committee for 7 hours. I don't know how you can do that. If the Fifth doesn't apply to documents, then how can you ask questions based on... I'm not really clear about this. But anyway, he would not produce the documents. So that was that. But he did testify that he did tell Jeff Sessions in a dinner, at a dinner, that he was traveling to Russia to meet with Russian business leaders and scholars. And Jeff Sessions still continues to say that he is unaware of anybody associated with the campaign in any way, shape, or form, and any Russian communication. And now you're getting Papadopoulos, who said, yes, he did tell Jeff Sessions, and now Jeff Sessions suddenly remembers. Oh, yeah, I remember that. But I told him that meeting was a bad idea. But the meeting did happen. It happened with Junior. Junior, you're going to say Junior wasn't connected to the campaign? Fine, say that. But Manafort's in that meeting. Jared Kushner's in that meeting. So now, today, Donald Trump is leaving for his Tour of the Despots Across Asia tour. Oh, yeah. Every human rights abuser in Indo-Asia he will meet with. He'll meet with the killer in Manila, Duterte, who has killed 7,000 people extrajudicially, meaning no process whatsoever. Just if they were suspected of having drugs, using drugs, being on drugs, whatever, then a little motorcycle, crew would come and execute them right there on the street. And there was a report that Duterte's son might be using the drugs. And Duterte said that if he found out that his son was using the drugs, he would personally kill his own son. It's interesting how despots will kill their own sons, their own uncles, their own cousins. Saddam would kill his own family. It's just so fascinating. But he's going to meet with Duterte. He's staying longer in the Philippines than any other place. Then he's going to go to the new chairman of China, who is probably took more power unto himself and rewrote their constitution to give himself a lifetime of power, no elections, no nothing. He can't be removed, etc. I don't think there's been anybody in China with that much power since Chairman Mao, and he loves him, and he's desperate for President Xi to love him over there in China. Okay? And then he's going to go to Vietnam, where there is no freedom of speech, you know. You've got Chairman Puck, or Fuck. That's really, you know. But you do have him, and there's no freedom of the press. There's no freedom of religion. You can't be, and China, too, there's no freedom of religion. So, he's just going to go kiss, dictator ass and say nothing about human rights abuses. Nothing.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hey, everybody, it's Brett from The Randi Rhodes Show. It's Friday, and that's payday, which doesn't happen without you. I've got a taste of the good life, and now I've got addictions that need to continue. A man's got to eat, and he can't eat without your support. So help Randi support me. Go to RandiRhodes.com/support, and everybody gets fed.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. And for the whole month of November, $5 off any turkey jerky pack you desire. $5 off, just use promo code TURKEY. They don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
Dear fellow progressive, these are the times that try men's souls. It is not the first time our country has been in peril, and it won't be the last. It is, however, a unique threat from within, one the precise likes of which we have never seen before. It is our modern media mix that has enabled an incurious, unserious, pathological liar and textbook narcissist to accede to the highest office in the land. His is a world of make-believe, one that could only have been concocted by a student of reality TV. At least we know he studied something. The imagined slights, the trumped-up, pun intended, feuds, the insulting nicknames, the Twitter diarrhea, it is all of a piece. Entertaining, funny even in another context, but when you're busy blowing up the country's longest-running foreign relationships, devastating the environment, threatening trade wars, and embracing all the wrong actors, it's really hard to find the humor. At Progressive Voices, we take holding the powerful accountable as our most serious mission, and there is nothing more important to us today than making sure the PV audience is informed with unbiased information, and that more and more people become part of our audience, and therefore are better informed than they can be by relying solely on the mainstream media, which, in so many ways, has shrunk from its duty as the watchdog of democracy. It is our sincere hope that you will help us in this important mission at this most critical hour. Go to progressivevoices.com and make your donation today. Please give whatever you can. Remember, we are a tax-exempt 501c3, meaning that your donations are fully tax-deductible. Thanks for supporting the Progressive Voices Network.
Hi, it's Randi Rhodes. Listen to me on the PV live stream or on demand or both on the PV app. Just go to progressivevoices.com or download the Progressive Voices app.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or progressivevoices.com now.
All right, Eddie in San Jose.
Hello, Randy.
Hello, Eddie.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. The trolls are out. We just got a call from a guy who said everybody knows the blacks and the Jews work together.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and what the other guy say? He's worried about the DNC stuff. He thinks that's collusion. Hey, that's no small matter. That is a huge damn deal, and that's why I'm not a member of the party.
Yeah, they're about to engage in a little meltdown before Christmas.
They need to. They gotta purge themselves. I mean, you know, that was just a disgusting story that Donna Brazile.
I agree.
Disgusting.
Yeah, really, and they should have tackled a lot of this about 8 months ago, but they did.
You know, it's funny, but those of us who were, in Bernie's camp, those of us who, were supporting Bernie and we were feeling the burn, turns out to be just an infection. But the burn was being felt, and yes, and I did tell this audience even back then that Bernie. That Hillary, won because Hillary had all the delegates sewn up before the first debate. Yeah. And nobody could figure out how that was fair, how that was right, how that was decent, that Debbie Wasserman Schultz's memos were hacked, and it clearly showed that she was playing the Jew card too. And she's a Jew, and she said Bernie wasn't a good enough Jew. I mean, this was just so amazing. And I also said that the reason to choose Hillary, in spite of all that, once she became the nominee over Donald Trump, was because one was a fascist and the other one wasn't.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. But that story about how the Clinton campaign had sort of pre-organized things by having was it a financial relationship with all 50 state parties, where donations were being directed from the state parties to the central DNC committees, et cetera, et cetera. That story came out a long time before the primary election.
Yeah, everybody knew it. And so, listen, it was obvious to everyone who loved Bernie, and I am one of them, that Bernie was being shortchanged, or that there was preferential treatment by what's supposed to be the neutral party.
Right.
I'm not a member of the party, okay? And tell you the truth, neither was Bernie.
No, well, that's one of the key counterpoints. Okay, you can at least say in the DNC's favor, he wasn't technically a Democrat until the summer of 2015, was it? Right. Yeah, so I that doesn't mean... I mean, there were also lots of new people that Bernie attracted to the primary process.
But this is
who
why
didn't know the rules.
That's so true. But this is why Bernie did the small donations. He did. That's why the $27 because he wasn't getting the money from the DNC and another part. And another part of it that we all knew. I don't think we were broadcasting back then, but we played all these clips. Another part was back then. Bernie knew that he was being locked out of the voter information. Okay, so Bernie decided, screw it, I'm not going to fight with them. One of his staffers by accident ended up in the file. This caused an amazing explosion in the DNC that Bernie's staffer has access to the voter file. But there was nothing wrong with Bernie having access to the voter file. He's supposed to have access to the Democratic voter files, but they were making him pay. They didn't make Hillary pay, but they were making Bernie pay for access to the voter file. And this caused a whole big thing. And then finally Bernie said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to pay for the voter file. So he went out and he started $27 people and finally bought the voter file.
And that's how he attracted a huge army of young people to his campaign. Yeah. Because they were in connection with new voters. Yeah. People who would have been on those lists anyway. Through a bigger, more concerted effort.
Hey man, I don't want this to get lost. I think this is so disgusting, and this is why I'm not a party member.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartely, and I have the same problem working here in California with political people. The party
and just to prove your point, though, that everybody knew, the head of the New Hampshire Democratic Party, he said he first learned about this when he was the DNC's vice chair back in 2016. He said the day that Donna discovered this, she called me and I almost passed out. So, I mean, this was open. This was an open thing. It's wrong. Somebody, listen, Tom Perez, who came from the Hillary Clinton wing of the party instead of the Bernie Sanders progressive part of the party, he needs to go too because everyone knew this. Everybody knew it.
100% behind Keith Ellison. I thought he was saying basically, I think I'll probably resign from my House seat and do this job full time if I'm in charge, or if I'm put in charge of a party.
Yeah.
They chose they chose the other guy,
Tom Perez
instead.
Yeah.
And now Perez has taken a job at a university. Is it at NYU or Columbia, something like that? So I don't think he's even doing it full time. So something's screwy.
And the whole DNC is just it's a mess. And this is why Obama didn't fundraise for the DNC. This is why he didn't do it. And so he didn't do it because he knew that the party was not worthy of his support because of this kind of stuff. And so when Hillary Clinton decided she was going to run for president a year before, that's when she started fundraising for the DNC because they were broke because Obama knew not to support that party.
Well, but Obama can also take some of this blame to a certain extent because Obama for America pretty much folded after the 2008 election. They didn't transfer enough of their actual data.
I wonder why.
Well, yeah, there's a good point too. So, but I agree with you. The reason I called, though, the real reason was this news that you have in your homework, and by the way, everyone go to Randy's homework, and while you're there, buy his Thinking podcast.
Yes.
But more importantly, this news today about the hacking charges that could conceivably be leveled against Russian agents by the Department of Justice, I want to hear your take on it, but I actually think this might be more important than the Paul Manafort charges from Monday, and here's why. This investigation into the hack started before the Mueller team was assembled. It was during the Comey era.
Yes.
And they agreed, the Mueller team agreed that the original prosecutors and agents who had started working on the actual hack, the actual technical computer means that the Russians got into the DNC systems, they stayed on board and handled that specifically. And then Mueller, after he was appointed, went after the collusion, the money laundering, all the conspiracy stuff that may have been going on in the campaign. But the hacking charge could conceivably be this 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. And they can conceivably try these hackers in absentia and convict them. Anyone who handled this hacked material after it's proven that it was feloniously obtained would then be guilty of a conspiracy because they knew that this material was stolen and they handled it anyway and they didn't notify the proper authorities.
Yes,
so
and Roger Stone, and this is another one. That's why Roger Stone's time is in the time in the barrel is coming because Roger Stone was talking to Guccifer 2.0, who now we know the FBI has discovered was indeed maybe one or more Russians from the foreign intelligence, Russian Foreign Intelligence Agency, and he's he's tweeting, "Oh, Podesta's time in the barrel is coming." I mean, he knew he was talking, and so he's actually saying they have hacked material. I know it, and the next thing that's going to be released is going to be Podesta's email, and obviously, he's making hay with hacked, stolen material.
Well, and that hack. Well, once the actual the hacking side of it can be proven to be a felony, then it can be proven that it was deliberate. It was a deliberate attempt to interfere with a presidential election. That's actually a function of the federal government. That's what it's supposed to do. And interfering with the function of the federal government is actually a conspiracy charge. Then, beyond that, depending on how much of this data anyone actually saw or handled, it doesn't matter. Even if they're conspiring with foreign citizens, it doesn't matter. The point is that the material was obtained via felony, and therefore you knew about it. You didn't notify the authorities. You sought to privately gain
that's what's so rich about what Fox News does. Fox News is like, well, the FBI should have told the Trump campaign that Manafort was, suspected of crimes. No, the Trump campaign should have told the FBI.
Exactly.
Right. And if people don't understand hacking and all this stuff, it's the same thing if I steal a watch and then I try to sell it to a pawn shop and the pawn shop knows it's stolen, okay? It's the same principle. You can't use stolen material. But bigger than that, yes, this was a foreign government declaring war on our democracy and having people in the Trump campaign wittingly helping them do it.
Whether they talked about it through face-to-face or through email or whatever they did.
Yes, and so when the president stood up there and said, Russia, if you're listening, I'd like to know if you could find the 30,000 missing emails.
Right.
He actually committed a crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Once one of these guys, whether it's Papadopoulos or Manafort or the other guy, if once one of them's convicted of handling this material feloniously, then everyone who knew about it around him is automatically guilty of conspiracy.
Yeah,
because they didn't step in, they didn't call the FBI, they didn't notify anyone, they didn't do anything about it.
I want to know why our chief law, why the head of the Justice Department, Jeff Sessions, suddenly remembers that there were passes made at the Trump campaign, that Russians were constantly reaching out to George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos keeps telling Sessions about it. Manafort knows about it. All these people are copied on these repetitive emails that Russia wants to help. They have dirt on Hillary Clinton. Okay, it's a month later. Listen, Russia's still willing to help. They have dirt on Hillary Clinton. They're all getting copies of these emails. Nobody goes to the FBI. Nobody picks up a phone and says, oh, my God, there's a guy on our campaign named George Papadopoulos. He's part of our foreign policy team, and the Russians keep on talking to him, and he's telling me that they want to arrange a meeting. Something's really, wrong here, so I'm calling the FBI. We need you to investigate either Papadopoulos, if they thought he was an agent, or Paul Manafort, because he says, well, we can't have Donald Trump take these meetings. We have to send a low-level guy. And then Carter Page goes to Moscow and tells Jeff Sessions he's going. I mean, right?
And once you read through I actually had a chance to scan through the Mueller indictment, and once you read through it, you see all of the shell companies and these tax havens that he's involved with, and as you mentioned, the Bank of Cyprus. All of the people in Manafort's circle at the Bank of Cyprus all have second-level connections to some of these people, not just Manafort in the Trump campaign.
Let me give you an easy connection.
Yeah.
Our Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, was the vice chair of the Bank of Cyprus. The other chair was appointed by Vladimir Putin.
Right. Well,
okay, so Wilbur Ross was at the Bank of Cyprus in 2014, 15, and 16 when all this is going on, sitting next to one of Vladimir Putin's oligarchs. Also, George Papadopoulos, go check his LinkedIn page. Guess where he's working?
I'm guessing it's a pretty well-connected bank.
He works for the business, a business group that represents Cyprus. That's where he is right now.
Well,
according to his LinkedIn, which turned out to be completely fake, but.
Well, one of the things Wilbur Ross did was he brought in Joseph Ackerman, one of the former CEOs of Deutsche Bank. He was the CEO of Deutsche Bank when Trump was doing business with Deutsche Bank. They were suing each other because Trump couldn't make a payment in 2008. Right.
I remember.
So Ackerman was the chief of Deutsche Bank when that happened. He gets moved to Bank of Cyprus along with Wilbur Ross. It's a whole giant connected web. It's crazy, but
it is crazy. But
Randy.
You're welcome.
And everyone, please donate and buy up Stinking Podcast. And hello to everyone in the chat room.
Oh, hi, chat room. Thank you. That was well done, Eddie. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's always the first week of the month that I feel very, very stressed about the money issue. So thank you very much. I got to tell you, Sam Clovis is the person who told George Papadopoulos, good job, well done. He just withdrew his nomination for the top scientist post after being linked to this Russia probe. But on the other side, I want to read you his resume and the questions that the Senate asked him about his qualifications to be the head of the top sciencey post at the USDA. And by the way, if you are in the farming industry, if you're a farmer of any sort, you might be interested to find out who Trump has put at the USDA. Oh my God.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Why sign a contract that would have this kind of language in there? How does that serve the people of Puerto Rico and the American people?
Puerto Rico cancels controversial grid repair contract.
Currently, at last check, more than 1 million people across 7 states without electricity.
Tropical storm Philippe knocks out power on the mainland in 7 northeastern states. Global CO2 jumps to the highest level in more than 3 million years. Plus,
we need to not rebuild as is, but put a new 21st century grid system in there.
House Republicans may support resilient electric grids. Just don't mention climate change.
I won't say a word. All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We just don't have time tonight to litigate whether extreme weather events are exacerbated by climate change. So for now, let's just say they are. Yeah, they just definitely are.
This is your Green News Report.
It is a complicated issue, and we may not have definitive proof until the late 1980s.
I'm gonna soak up the sun.
Okay, Desi Doyen, you say global CO2 is the highest it's been in 3 million years, but I thought CO2 emissions had leveled off and were even falling.
Our annual CO2 emissions are leveling off, but with El Nino, global CO2 levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide have jumped at a record rate since last year to 403 parts per million. That's a level that's not been seen in at least 3 million years, according to the United Nations World Meteorological Organization. They warned Monday that the last time CO2 levels were this high, sea levels were up to 60 feet higher than they are today.
I thought you weren't going to mention climate change.
Power was knocked out to more than 1.5 million people across 7 states in the Northeast after a powerful punch from Tropical Storm Philippe on Sunday, with hurricane-force winds that knocked down overhead power lines, which again raises the question of whether the U.S. should be burying power lines like Germany does. It is more costly up front, but the U.S. spends way more than Germany does every year on economic losses from power outages and electric grid system repairs.
Tropical Storm Philippe. When the hell is this year's hurricane season going to be over?
Not till the end of November.
Oh, great.
Speaking of which, in Puerto Rico, the state-run electric utility PREPA announced on Sunday it will cancel a massive no-bid $300 million contract to repair the island's battered electric grid that was granted to a tiny, politically well-connected Montana company, Whitefish Energy. Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rosselló welcomed the cancellation of the contract amid growing controversy in a Sunday press conference, calling it a distraction that is delaying the recovery.
It's interfering with everything, and it doesn't go towards the best interest of the people of Puerto Rico.
The contracting process, unusually high costs, and highly irregular contract provisions drew scrutiny, like a provision explicitly blocking government audits or reviews of the costs or profits in the contract. The contract is now the focus of multiple investigations in the Department of Homeland Security, in Congress, and reportedly also an FBI inquiry.
Good.
Governor Rosselló has now activated mutual aid agreements with mainland states for grid repair crews and equipment. Puerto Rico's economy has ground to a halt. It has been 6 weeks since Hurricane Maria struck. 70% of Puerto Ricans still lack electricity, and more than 20% still don't have reliable, clean drinking water. But some good news, solar energy company Tesla's first microgrid system in Puerto Rico is now up and running at a children's hospital. The system combines solar panels and a large-scale battery and generates all of the hospital's power needs without the grid.
Day and night.
Exactly. It's one of several small renewable energy and battery-based projects being deployed on the island during rebuilding of the main power grid. And finally, it may be dawning on congressional Republicans that Congress could require updating the island's infrastructure for resiliency against future record hurricanes and also to save money. Here's Republican House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy on Fox Business Network on Sunday.
When we go back and make investments here, we should prepare ourselves that there'll be a future hurricane sometime in the future. It's happened before and it'll happen again. But we should prepare ourselves so we're not repaying the exact same thing.
Just don't mention climate change.
I still won't say a word, even though it is the 5th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, which is starting to look a hell of a lot like Tropical Storm Philippe that just rolled through town. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to today, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Sandy, can't you see I'm in misery?
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey! It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Donna Brazile, in her new book, writes about the DNC Democrat primary rigging and talks about corruption, internal corruption, and unethical finances. And she tags Hillary Clinton. Are you surprised about this, given what you said about Bernie Sanders being given the short shrift?
I think it's a major story. Now, I don't know if the mainstream fake media, because they are fake and phony, but I just don't know if they're going to pick it up. But I want to tell you, that is a big story, what she's saying. It's illegal, number one.
It's not.
And it's really very unfair to Bernie Sanders. I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, although I must say I got a lot of his votes. When he was thrown out, many of those people voted for me because of trade, because I agreed with him in trade. We're just doing more about it than he can do, and we're doing a lot about it. But I thought that was terrible.
It was terrible. It was unethical. It was disgusting. It was, everything that you could possibly say. But it isn't new. All of us Bernie fans, all of us Bernie supporters, all the girls out there that felt the burn, it wasn't just something that could be cured with penicillin, It was real. We all understood. Everybody understood. All the DNC chairs of the state, Nebraska understood, New Hampshire understood, everybody, Debbie Wasserman Schultz understood, everybody knew what was going on at the DNC because before Hillary Clinton even debated Bernie one time, all of the delegates, and the delegates are the party people. The delegates are the people who give money to the party. The delegates are the people who organize inside the party. I am not a party person. I am not a member of the Democratic Party. Contrary to what you trolls might think about me, I am an independent. However, we all understood, we all knew that Bernie was being shortchanged and that the DNC, who was supposed to ethically, not legally, but ethically, according to their bylaws, are supposed to remain neutral in the primary, something I have done for a very long time, that they are not to take sides, had taken sides. And the way that we knew this was because all the delegates, the math was against Bernie from the day Bernie decided that he was going to be a Democratic primary contestant, okay? The delegates were all locked up. Mathematically, it was impossible for Hillary to win, to lose the primaries. Everybody knew that. And in spite of it, Bernie made his freaking case. And he made an amazing case. And people like me who are progressives, who are independent, who do believe that the entire wealth inequality situation that West Virginia and Kentucky and Mississippi and Alabama find themselves in is directly attributable to the Republican policies of the past 30 years. The lack of an increase in the minimum wage, using the tax code as a vehicle by which to transfer amazing amounts of wealth to the very, 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 very well-connected and wealthy at the expense of everybody else. We know that. So this isn't a big story. I doubt it's illegal. But last night he was tweeting all about it, this president was. And I tweeted him back. I couldn't take it. He's attacking his own Justice Department now. You understand that? He attacked them last night. He attacked them today. He's very upset with the justice system. He sat down with the drunk Laura Ingraham. I've never seen her sober. I just never have. White wine,
The justice system, a joke and a laughing stock, you said the other day. What were you?
Well, when I look at immigration and I look at this whole thing coming in by lottery and then we can't do anything about it quickly, and I look at what's going on with justice when it comes to so many different topics,
Criminal
really
justice? You're talking about criminal justice issues?
A lot of justice.
A lot of
This guy would be tied up forever in the court system. You look at some of the cases that are going on forever, and you have them dead to right. No, the justice system has to go quicker, and it has to be really stronger and fairer. Probably has to be fairer, too. But it's very sad when you look at a lottery system and you have people coming into the country through the form of a lottery.
Okay, that would be Congress, not the justice system, okay? Congress makes the laws. And in fact, the Gang of Eight, the Democrats and the Republicans in the Gang of Eight back in 2013 tried to get rid of this visa lottery system. There's only 55,000 visas given out this way. There are standards. You have to at least have a high school diploma, as I'm sure you know, and if you don't, learn it. And the other thing is you have to have skills in a State Department approved job. And then you are vetted for everything from your health status to your employment status to who do you know in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what Congress tried to do. So the Senate actually tried to get rid of the visa lottery program. The House, the Republican House, refused to take up immigration. Period. End of story. In 2013, they just refused. They will not do a comprehensive immigration reform bill. Everyone knows that. Who cares to know it? So shut up already about this. It has nothing to do with the Justice Department. I don't know who he's talking. We got dead to right. I will tell you, yesterday I told you that he was tweeting about he wants capital punishment for this one. And I told you Bowie Bergdahl, that he was, the story of Bowie Bergdahl is a really strange and horrible story. He left his unit in Afghanistan for a day. He wandered off. He left. He went AWOL. No question about it. You can't do that. But he did. He went AWOL. And he was AWOL for a day before he was captured by the freaking Taliban. And the Taliban held him and tortured him and did all kinds of, stuff to him for 5 years. 5 years. And then Obama did a trade for some low-level Gitmo people in exchange to get Bowie back. So we got him back. And Obama had a thing with Bowie Bergdahl's parents at the White House saying, we got your son back. And, and then it all came out that he had left his unit and had gone AWOL. And the Republicans were screaming they want him, tried as a traitor, and they want him tried for treason. And Trump is tweeting that he's a disgusting traitor to the United States and he should get the death penalty. And yesterday, didn't I tell you that the judge in Bowie Bergdahl's case was using President Trump's remarks on the Twitter to mitigate the sentence that Bowie Bergdahl might get for wandering off or going AWOL? Because the president was calling for the death penalty in this case. Guess what? The judge did take that into account and gave Bowie Bergdahl no jail time. None whatsoever. They will dishonorably discharge him from the military, and that is going to be the end of it. The case is over. This is your president. This is the maniac that you have who's actually... All right, so now he's complaining about the justice system and immigration and people he's got dead to right. I have no idea what he's talking about. Not a freaking clue. If he's talking about this terrorist in New York City who we have dead to right because this guy actually not only confessed but said he was really proud of himself and wanted to fly an ISIS flag from his freaking hospital room, then the president ought to refrain from tweeting that he ought to get the death penalty, because now his public defender, which is what he has for defense, his public defender, instead of allowing the client to plead guilty, which was probably what was going to happen here, can now say his client can't get a fair trial because the head of the justice system, the president of the United States, has already weighed in. Now, this is not foreign territory in this way. Nixon did this with the Charles Manson case. Nixon, in the middle of the Charles Manson prosecution, Nixon started talking about the Charles Manson case and said that Manson ought to get the death penalty and Manson was guilty as hell. And Vincent Bugliosi, who was the prosecutor of Charles Manson, said, "Oh, dear God, take it back. Because now they're going to say he can't get a fair trial and we're about to put this guy away." He was going to get the death penalty, but California abolished the death penalty in the meantime. So that's why Charles Manson is still lingering with the swastika on his head. Alt-right people. There's a great example of, people who want race wars. That's what Manson was all about. He wanted to start a race war, just like this president, just like the alt-right, just like the Bannons, just like the Sebastian Gorka, Seb, like Jeb, except a Nazi. I mean, so Nixon actually had to take it back. He actually did say, that he didn't mean it and that it was inappropriate and he shouldn't have weighed in and he'll leave it to the court. But this president doubles down on it this morning. Not happy with the Justice Department, he said.
I'm really not involved with the Justice Department. I'd like to let it run itself. But honestly, they should be looking at the Democrats. They should be looking at Podesta and all of that dishonesty. They should be looking at a lot of things, and a lot of people are disappointed in the Justice Department, including me.
Oh, my God. So that's Jeff Sessions. So Jeff Sessions, I'm waiting for, a Friday night dump. Now, remember, the president is on his way to Asia, but he went to Pearl Harbor today. He was flying over there, and that's still America, even though it's in the middle of an ocean. Yeah. God help you, Hawaii, if anything happens to you. President can't solve your problem because you're in the middle of an ocean. Of course, he knows just what to do with North Korea. He knows just what to do, even though they're way over there. He knows just what to do in Afghanistan. He knows just what to do in Syria, even though they're in the middle of nowhere. But he can't figure out, places that are surrounded by water. He doesn't understand that ships are the trucks of the sea. I don't know why. So God help you, Guam. God help you, Hawaii. But he is on his way to you. And that's still American soil. I am wondering if he's going to fire Jeff Sessions tonight. Because he can't stop ripping apart his own justice system. And here's what he said yesterday. Now, somebody might have counseled him in the meantime that he shouldn't be doing this.
The saddest thing is that because I'm the President of the United States, I am not supposed to be involved with the Justice Department. I'm not supposed to be involved with the FBI. I'm not supposed to be doing the kind of things that I would love to be doing. And I'm very frustrated by it.
He's very frustrated. He would like to be... he would like to see the FBI and the DOJ be an army of brown shirts that are loyal to him, and they're not. So he's very upset with the whole system, that he's not allowed to be the head of the FBI. He's not allowed to be the head of the Department of Justice. And in reality, that's not true. See, he could fire Jeff Sessions and make himself the head of the Department of Justice. I know that's frightening. If that happens... flee, everybody. That I always told you I would tell you when it was time to flee. If Donald Trump makes himself the head of the Department of Justice, if he fires Jeff Sessions and appoints himself, or somebody like Sheriff David Clark, okay, like that ne'er-do-well guy from Milwaukee who likes to, let his prisoners die of thirst and stuff. Yeah, if he appoints some low-level creature like that to be the head of the department, then it's time to flee. Truly, it is time to flee. Because that is the end of democracy in this country, because it's the end of the rule of law. And that is what we are. We're a nation of laws, and the rule of law it's not supposed to be supine to the rule of a man. It's supposed to be ahead of the rule of any man. So if he takes out Jeff Sessions, now the only reason why I believe Jeff Sessions is still there, even though today he said, I'm very disappointed. Everybody's disappointed, including me, was saying, I hate Jeff Sessions. I hate him. The only reason why Jeff is still there, Beauregard, is because he's got friends in the Senate. See, this is why we're not calling Jeff Sessions back to the Intelligence Committee to retestify, because he lied so many times under oath. And that's because the Republicans control the judiciary.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. It's Friday, and that's payday, which doesn't happen without you. I've got a taste of the good life, and now I've got addictions that need to continue. A man's got to eat, and he can't eat without your support. So help Randi support me. Go to randirhodes.com/support, and everybody gets fed.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
Hello, Progressive Voices tune-in listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week. We're talking about the recent wine country fires that raged through California's Napa and Sonoma counties in early October, leaving over 6,700 homes destroyed.
Thousands of lives changed in an instant. The uprooting of many seniors who are either living in assisted living, retirement homes, or nursing homes that were either damaged or destroyed by the fires.
Parents may have been brought into their children's home because their home actually burned down and they're staying with them. Boom, instant caregiver. People become instant caregivers every day when their parent has a stroke or something happens and the hospital discharges them and says, hi, you're now an instant caregiver. There's that conflict and that guilt. You love them, but you want your life back. And that's perfectly normal to feel like that. So I'm encouraging people to have a conversation with their loved one, set some realistic expectations in the house. If you want your mom to stay with you forever, start talking about sharing expenses. If you think your mom should move to an assisted living or to an independent living or just her own apartment, have that conversation and plan a date for when that's going to happen and what that's going to look like. And families are terrible at having these conversations.
Yeah.
And they have such a hard time making these plans because they feel like they're hurting their parents' feelings. But avoidance of conflict just creates more conflict. That's what I've seen. So
very
be
true.
Brave and start it. Throughout the U.S., you can go to the website that has care managers who can help have this conversation regardless of the circumstances, and that's aginglifecare.org. Do not go it alone. Get some expert advice.
Check out our show at nursetalksite.com and listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on Progressive Voices.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, my God. Oh. All right. Rick in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Randy,
Yes.
I tell you. This Tangerine Tiberius has no conception as to what the president's function is.
No, he doesn't.
Vis-a-vis the justice system.
He also doesn't. He doesn't understand.
Interfere.
He doesn't understand what a fourth grader understands about the separation of powers. He doesn't even understand. So last night he was tweeting out about how the Justice Department needs to look into the DNC. That would be the Federal Election Commission. Okay, that's who. So I tweeted him. I said, "You're such a moron. It would be the FEC, not the Justice Department, that looks into whether or not the DNC operated within all the laws of the land."
Yeah, well, the FEC has pretty much been neutered. I mean,
yes,
anyway.
Of course. And that's why they feel free to do this kind of crap. And that's why I'm not a member of the Democratic Party. Well, it's part of the reason. The other reason is because the Democratic Party was taken over by the DLC years ago.
Yeah. I mean, how's that working for us?
Yeah, exactly.
Not so well.
Hello.
But anyway, the initial reason I called was, Carter Page's taking the Fifth Amendment as the documents that were sought to be produced, but not as to the questions, is very curious. I mean,
it could be enough. It could be actually enough for Mueller to charge him.
Oh, sure.
I mean, here you are violating a subpoena that's been issued to you by the Senate Intelligence Committee, and yet you by the Senate, and yet you appear before the House Intelligence Committee citing the Fifth Amendment that you won't produce documents, but you will testify.
Yeah, I mean, if he's testifying about the subject matters that the documents relate to,
yes,
he's really waived it. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
And documents, contrary to what some people may think, is documents are not per se privileged. You can't necessarily not produce them. You can produce documents if the mere act of producing them would tend to incriminate you, and that would apply, for example, if the government doesn't know exactly what the documents say, because by producing them, you verify the existence of the documents, your custody of them, and the fact that they're the documents that were sought to be produced, that they're authentic.
Right.
So that's basically how it works. But if it's a foregone conclusion that these documents exist, the act of production doctrine doesn't apply to the production of documents. So your invocation of the Fifth Amendment doesn't stand in that situation.
And of course, we know that he's been copied on Papadopoulos's emails, which are documents, because Papadopoulos, he's been charged with perjury, and in order to, get 0 to 6 months as his sentence for such a thing, he has to now be telling the truth and produce everything for Mueller. And Mueller feels sure that this guy is cooperating with him, and that he is actively cooperating, which indicates wearing a wire. And so those documents have been given over, and they are documents that copied all these 7 foreign policy guys, including Jeff Sessions, including Carter Page. So if he has them, and Carter Page says, oh, well, if I release them, then it incriminates me, Mueller already has them. So you can't take the Fifth Amendment, but he did, and then he proceeds to testify orally about the contents of documents for 7 hours. It just makes no sense.
I think he's like Trump. He's an effing moron.
He is, and he keeps on going on the TV, and he keeps calling it the dodgy dossier. He thinks he's saying something funny and witty, and he's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot, and he appeared yesterday for 7 hours without an attorney.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
It is.
I don't know if he's even hired an attorney. What the hell does he think he's doing?
He has, but he chose to appear.
What's the attorney doing?
What
kind of advice is the attorney giving?
Oh, meanwhile, Ty Cobb is advising Trump to produce everything and to turn. And yesterday, when Jared turned over his documents, all of a sudden, you had Steve Bannon and you had other surrogates all over the TV yesterday going, Jared's a piece of crap, and Jared's got to go.
Mr. Perfection is what they call him.
Now, Ty Cobb is saying, you know what this reminds me of, though? How the president will sell out his son-in-law, and he will. He will.
God, he'll sell that to anybody, Randy.
It reminds me of the scene in The Godfather where Connie, at the very end of The Godfather 1, Connie goes into Michael Corleone's office, and she finds out that Michael had Carlo killed, her husband. Carlo killed. And she starts screaming at Kay, "That's your husband! That's your husband!" Because
was that Talia Shire who played that role? Yeah.
Talia Shire, And so, this is what is going on in the White House. That Trump is now threatening Jared Kushner because Jared is cooperating. Ty Cobb is saying that Trump is cooperating, but Trump is going to fire Jeff Sessions, or Trump is going to fire Jeff Sessions, appoint somebody who will then fire Mueller.
Could be, but he's got to get that. Just because he appoints somebody doesn't mean they're going to, be confirmed. The Senate may just basically.
Well, I thought of that too, but there is this little thing where he could temporarily appoint somebody, and that temporary guy could fire Mueller.
Yeah, he can only appoint somebody to be.
Or check this out. He could do exactly what he's doing with the State Department, not hire anybody and put himself in charge of it, which is when we need to flee. Because this is what he told Laura Ingraham last night. She was asking him, about Rex Tillerson and the State Department and why are all these positions still open? And, he tries to play both sides of the thing. He says, well, they're open because they don't need to be filled. I'm doing cost cutting. I don't want ambassadors. I don't want diplomats. I don't want anybody. And then on the other side of it, he goes, the Democrats are obstructing my nominees. But he hasn't nominated anybody.
Yeah, that's totally nuts. I mean, I would liken him appointing himself as the acting attorney general to, let's say, Caligula appointing his horse as a senator in the days of the Roman Empire. You know?
But at least Caligula had his fans.
There you go, Randy.
Yeah.
Well, great show. It's a couple of segments till beer.
Thank God.
So
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate
we
you.
We all need it this time. This week.
Definitely. And this, like the Friday news dump hasn't even happened yet. And this morning, he starts off his day by saying he's not happy with the Justice Department. Last night, he says he hates the Justice Department. He wants to be involved with the Justice Department. And then today, somebody asked him, what do you mean you want to be involved in the Justice Department? You're not allowed to be involved in the Justice Department because we don't do political prosecution in this country. We do, a lawful prosecution in this country. You can't go after your enemies. Can't have an enemies. And so then today he moderates himself, but he still says he's not happy with Sessions, and then he gets on a plane to go to Hawaii.
Well, I think Sessions better clear his office out, prophylactically, because he's not going to have a lot of time to do it otherwise.
I'll send him the box.
All right.
Take care. The box that you have to get when you have to clear out your office. But listen,
the saddest thing is that because I'm the President of the United States, I am not supposed to be involved with the Justice Department. I'm not supposed to be involved with the FBI. I'm not supposed to be doing the kind of things that I would love to be doing. And I'm very frustrated by it.
That's what he told some conservative talk show host named Larry O'Connor. Okay, and then today he moderated himself.
I'm really not involved with the Justice Department. I'd like to let it run itself. But honestly, they should be looking at the Democrats. They should be looking at Podesta and all of that dishonesty. They should be looking at a lot of things. And a lot of people are disappointed in the Justice Department, including me.
Ooh. That means he hates Jeff Sessions. That's what that means, and that he would like to run it himself. Now, Laura Ingraham last night, she asked him about the State Department, but you don't have anybody there. How do you do diplomacy? She didn't say it that way because she was loving on him, but
you're heading off to Asia, huge trip.
Yeah.
Lots of stakes. You got North Korea, deal with the Chinese. You're going to stop in Seoul. Your State Department still has some unfilled positions. Are you worried that the State Department doesn't have enough Donald Trump nominees in there to push your vision through? Because other State Departments, including Reagan's at times, undermined his agenda. And there's a concern that the State Department currently is undermining your agenda.
So we don't need all the people that they want. Don't forget,
oh my God.
I'm a business person, and I tell my people, well, you don't need to fill slots, don't fill them.
Oh
but we have some people that I'm not happy with their
But
thinking
Assistant
process.
Secretary of State, you're not getting rid of that position.
But let me tell you, the one that matters is me. I'm the only one that matters because when it comes to it, that's what the policy is going to be. You've seen that. You've seen it
you're
strongly.
quite a diplomat.
We're filling up roles. And don't forget, Schumer and the Democrats are just obstructing. You can't get anything through. We have almost about half the number of people coming through as Obama had. But in addition to that, we don't need all of the people. It's called cost saving. In the old days.
But you want your vision pushed.
I want my vision, but my
What
vision is
vision?
my vision anyway. It's called cost saving. There's nothing wrong with cost saving. Rex is in there working hard. He's doing his best. He's doing the best he can.
Is he going to be with you for the duration?
Well, we'll see. I don't know who's going to be duration.
he's going to fire Rex Tillerson too. It's unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And by the way, this is what I was threatening to tell you before. Do you know who he's putting into, I told you, Sam Clovis has zero background in science, and Trump nominated Sam Clovis, who, by the way, is the person who wrote to George Papadopoulos when George Papadopoulos said the Russians got dirt on Hillary Clinton. They want to meet with this campaign. They want to meet with the president. They want to meet with anybody from the campaign. Sam Clovis's response was, good work. Sam Clovis is a radio talk show host from Iowa. That's who Sam Clovis is. All right. Now, he encouraged George Papadopoulos to have this off-the-record meeting with the Russian officials. This is according to court documents. He said, I would encourage you, to George Papadopoulos. He said, make the trip. Now, for this, he was given a place at the Department of Agriculture. He is in a senior role at the Department of Agriculture. Just know that. So now they were going to bump him up to a science position, to the chief science officer at the USDA, okay? And it turns out that Sam Clovis has absolutely no background in science, has absolutely no background in agriculture, has absolutely no background in education or economics. None of this. And so the Senate was, having to have a confirmation hearing for him. And so the Senate sent him a question and answer sheet, which is what they do for nominees. They do it for the Supreme Court. They do it for judicial appointment. They just nominate. He just got a woman confirmed who's like, the most anti-gay, anti-abortion. And they confirmed her. So he's full of crap. But anyway, they wrote, please list all graduate level courses you've taken in natural science. His answer was none. Please list all membership and leadership roles you've held with any agricultural, scientific, agricultural education, or agricultural economic organizations. His answer was none. Asked about his agriculture research experience, he replied, I bring 17 years of agriculture experience integrated into both undergraduate and graduate level courses throughout my teaching career, as reflected in my curriculum vitae, as well as the committee's questionnaire. And they asked, well, what was that? And he said, I have run twice for statewide office in Iowa, and that you cannot be a credible candidate in Iowa unless you know about agriculture. That was his experience, failing to be elected in Iowa for some low level blah, blah, blah. Now, they asked him about other things, and he said that human-generated greenhouse gas emissions do not drive climate change. He said that protecting gay rights could lead to pedophilia, and he said that there is no connection between human activity and global warming. It's not proven, and that he's a skeptic. He's also a birther. He said that he doesn't believe that Obama was born here, and that he participated in the birther movement. And so he's completely unqualified. So yesterday he finally withdrew his name from consideration because but this is what he wrote, okay? When he was asked, why he withdrew his name, he said he blamed it on the political climate. He said the political climate inside Washington has made it impossible for me to receive balanced and fair consideration for this position. He is currently the USDA's senior White House advisor, by the way. He said the relentless assaults on you and your team seem to be blood sport that only increases with intensity each day. And his attorney, Victoria Tensing, she's still married to Joe DeGeneva. Yes. She said the responses to Papadopoulos' email where he encouraged it, say, I encourage you to take the trip, make the trip if it's feasible, good work, good job, bring it to the, she said that his responses to Papadopoulos' email was a courtesy by a polite gentleman from Iowa. By the way, in the 2008 Farm Bill, it specifies that appointees to this position, which he was nominated for, should be chosen from, quote, distinguished scientist with specialized training or significant experience in agriculture, research, education, and economics, given that they are responsible for the coordination of research, education, and extension activities of the department. So they violated that particular law, too, of the 2008 Farm Bill. And so he withdrew because he says the political climate does not favor him, is what it is. And he felt the need to chime in on gay rights and birtherism, too. That's just the tip of the iceberg, people on the Titanic. Just want to let you know. Wait till I tell you who else he's put in there at the USDA.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Hey guys, it's Scotty, Randi's producer here, and as many of you know, I grew up in Randi's house. You know, eating her food, watching her TV, and like most kids, ignorantly not following her advice. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was, never take a job in radio, because the big companies that run radio, they suck. Well, I didn't listen and ended up working in radio, and as always, Randi was right, they sucked. But I'm here now, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of chutzpah to break away from the big companies and start your own show. But you know what else it takes? Your support. We are independent media, so the only financial backers we have are you, the best listeners in the world. And we can't do it without you. So please, go to RandiRhodes.com and support the show, buy a stinking podcast, donate some money, and keep us going.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. And for the whole month of November, $5 off any turkey jerky pack you desire. $5 off, just use promo code TURKEY. They don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
This is Sam from Indivisible. Be part of the resistance. Listen to the Indivisible podcast when you want, on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app. Download the PV app now in the app and Android stores.
Take action and hold Congress accountable. This is Ezra Levin on the Progressive Voices Network, asking you to join the millions who decided to become part of the movement to resist Trump's agenda. Check out indivisibleguide.com to start resisting on your home turf. Keep listening for more ways you can get involved.
Be part of the resistance. Make sure you listen to this week's new Indivisible podcast, available on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Here's some breaking news. The former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page testifying under oath today to the House Intelligence Committee. And we are learning that Page made a stunning statement. Page told the committee that he directly told now Attorney General Jeff Sessions that he was going to Moscow in July 2016.
Oh, my God.
That, of course, would be during the presidential campaign. Now, this is crucial. He just said it under oath. It comes as Jeff Sessions told Congress that he knew nothing about any Trump campaign official having a contact at any time with Russians.
He's so screwed.
I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States.
That's parsed.
Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign.
Whoops.
We're just learning at this moment here some breaking news. The former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page testifying under oath today to the House Intelligence Committee. And we are learning that Page made a stunning statement. Page told the committee that he directly told now Attorney General Jeff Sessions that he was going to Moscow in July 2016. That, of course, would be during the presidential campaign. Now, this is crucial. He just said it under oath. It comes as Jeff Sessions told Congress that he knew nothing about any Trump campaign official having a contact at any time with Russians.
Yeah, that's a big whoop. So I'm waiting for Jeff Sessions to be fired either this weekend or I can't imagine the president doing it when he's on foreign soil. But Hawaii is America. So even though you're in the middle of an ocean and he couldn't figure out how to help you if something happened, but it is still America. I don't know if he knows that, but we'll see. We'll see. Because today, as he was leaving, very unhappy.
I'm really not involved with the Justice Department. I'd like to let it run itself. But honestly, they should be looking at the Democrats. They should be looking at Podesta and all of that dishonesty. They should be looking at a lot of things. And a lot of people are disappointed in the Justice Department, including me.
Ooh, that's not good for Jeff Sessions. All right. Anyway, I just want to show you who he's putting into these positions, okay? Why Jeff Sessions is the Attorney General is because Jeff Sessions has been loyal or was loyal during the campaign. He was the first and only senator to support Donald Trump during the primaries. And this is why Jeff Sessions is your Attorney General, a man who despises civil rights, is in charge of the civil rights ordinances in the United States, the civil rights laws in the United States. But check out what went on at the USDA. I just explained to you Sam Clovis, who had no background in science. By the way, he's still going to stay on as the White House advisor to the Department of Agriculture. He's going to keep that job. He's not leaving that job. He just can't make it to be the chief science officer because he has no education or background or experience in science or agriculture, except for running for some low-level office in Iowa, which he failed to win. Says he couldn't do it unless he understood agriculture. All right, let's look at the USDA then. This is unbelievable what happened here. Through a Freedom of Information Act request, okay, the Politico, the magazine, actually decided to file a Freedom of Information Act request and get the resumes of 42 people Trump appointed to the USDA and to see if they had any roots in agriculture. 22 of these 42 resumes cited their previous experience for the USDA positions that they hold, which pay up to $119,000 a year, okay, as being on the Trump campaign. That was their experience in agriculture. Okay, now check this out. Guy named Nick Bruschi. He was hired at the USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service. Their job, and this is important if you're in the farming business or you grow food or you package food or you're trying to export food or anything like that, okay? His job is to develop overseas markets for U.S. agricultural trade goods. He's hired as a GS-12. Now, those of us who have been in the military, you know you work alongside civilians a lot, and they're GS, okay, government service employees. He was hired as a GS-12 at $79,720, which, by the way, requires a master's degree or equivalent. They looked at his resume. They cannot find where he even graduated college. In fact, he's an over-the-road truck driver, like me. It's an honest way to make a living. I'm proud that I did it for a living, but I don't have no master's degree in marketing or agriculture, okay? He attended 3 different universities from 2000 to 2013, graduated from none of them, and is just a over-the-road truck driver. That is what he is. They looked at another guy. His name's Christopher O'Hagan. He was appointed to be and is currently serving as a confidential assistant at the Agricultural Marketing Service. They help food growers. They help fiber, people that, grow hemp, let's say, okay? People that do specialty crops, market their goods. This helps our farmers. He graduated in 2016 from the University of Scranton. He was a history major. His resume lists one example of work experience prior to joining the Trump campaign. He was a cabana boy at the Westchester Country Club in Rye, New York. Oh, Cabana Boy, want to make a middle-aged woman happy? A Cabana Boy? In upstate New York, where you only have Cabana Boys for like 4 months out of the year, maybe? May, June, July, August, and until Labor Day? This is his only experience on his resume. A Cabana Boy. Okay, here's another guy, Tim Page. They looked at Tim Page's resume. He's a 2016 graduate of Appalachian State University. He's at the Natural Resources Conservation Service. That is an agency that helps farmers and ranchers who would sit there and defy federal law and say the federal government is at war with me because I want to graze my cow over there and I don't want to pay for it. So this guy is there to help farmers and ranchers and managers, forest managers, employ the best conservation practices, best practices. His resume shows his experience is Cutting Edge LLC, a landscaping service in Connolly Springs, North Carolina. He's my garden guy. He's Sergio. Okay, so of the 10 confidential assistants whose resumes were among those obtained by American Oversight through a Freedom of Information Act request, along with the resumes of some career staff who are acting in leadership roles, all but one of the 10 said their experience was they helped Donald Trump get elected. None of them had real agricultural experience. And all of the appointees with this title are ranked as GS 11, 12s, or 13s. Salary begins at $60,210, goes to $85,816 at step 1 of each grade. 2 of the 10 don't have college degrees on their resumes, despite the fact that GS 7s or higher have to have had completed 4 years of college. And further, none of the people he appointed to confidential assistant had earned a master's degree, even though they're employed above a GS9 level, which is required by the Office of Personnel Management, a master's degree. And those of you who work as GS9s, 10s, 11s, you all know that you have to have a master's degree, and you've worked really hard in your life to get that. And perhaps I've worked with you on a flight line somewhere, and I found you invaluable because you were so well educated in mechanics and hydraulics, pneumatics. Oh, Jesus, it's unbelievable. Here's another guy he also appointed. He's a USDA political appointee. He was a employee at a scented candle company. Yes, a scented candle company. And before the scented candle company, he was a clerk at AT&T. And the way he helped Trump get elected was he was a Republican National Committee intern. Another one was a part-time executive assistant. Another one was a rental property manager. One was a former state senator from Washington State who mentioned on his resume that he was first elected, that he was the first elected official in his state to back Trump's candidacy. So we got 7 special assistants who command higher salaries than confidential assistants. All special assistants are GS 14s or 15s, which start at $101,402 and $119,285 respectively for a 14 or a 15. 3 of those special assistants mentioned work on the campaign on their resume as well. None of them had the requirements to.
Yeah, you're talking about the plum book here. Really? That's what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was actually a Freedom of Information Act request.
But all these jobs are listed.
Yes, I know they're listed, but Trump actually just picked these people off of his campaign.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, Michelle in Lakewood.
Hey, happy Friday, Randy.
Happy Friday.
I'm with you. I love you guys. Hello, everybody. You know, we could have avoided all this. Part of the problem that the Democrats have is that they allow Republicans to break the law. They should have impeached and prosecuted Iran-Contra Ronnie. They should have never allowed George Bush to allow the Supreme Court to pick, 3 elections in my lifetime. I'm a Gen Xer. I've lived through 18 recessions. I grew up during the age of, artists against apartheid. And, it's interesting to me that the Democrats have a multitude of problems. They never hold Republicans accountable.
Well, just remember that the Democrats back in those days figured that the way that they could get, control of, the presidency and the House and the Senate was to go more to the right. Hence, they invented the DLC, and Clinton and the Clintons decided that certain people were predators and decided that, tax cuts were good things for corporations and deregulation was a good thing for the media. And they were wrong. They were so wrong. And still, you see this kind of interference in the Democratic National Committee by the Clintons. It's unethical. It's wrong. It loses them elections time after time after time. That is why people felt the burn. That is why I was a Bernie person. That is why, right? And they still haven't learned their lesson.
Exactly, and it's incredibly frustrating because
it is because they lost people like me.
Me too. I'm an independent. I wish I could be a Democrat. I'm a progressive. But what's frustrating is that their messaging problem is so atrocious. Here's a quick example.
It's not just messaging. It's their actual policies when they get into office. They try and play, the corporate donor game. They try and say, hey, the way to victory is fundraising. And to fundraise, you got to kiss corporate ass. And to kiss corporate ass means you got to kiss lobby ass. And hey, we'll be the lobbyists. And hey, we'll say it's a third way. We'll say it's something, we're triangulating. We're moving toward the bullcrap. They lost every decent Democrat along the way. And we all became independents. And then when Bernie showed up and started showing us why there's such income inequality and what the issue is with the tax code and how deregulation caused the Great Recession of 2008. And for those who lost their house, it was a Great Depression. Everybody said, he's right. They're wrong. And then out of 350 million people in this country, Bernie loses and every Republican loses, and we end up with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And why? Because of the freaking money.
Right. And here's the thing that I don't understand about the Democrats, this messaging problem. Republicans are very good at manufacturing crises and fake scandals, like, with every Democrat, the Republicans want to threaten to impeach. And I noticed that the media is very quiet, and that's because of Bill Clinton, the 1996 Telecommunications
This
Act,
is the problem we have.
Which
yes.
needs to be updated because of the fact that Facebook
it needs to be
or revamped completely. I don't know.
We need trust busting. That's the answer.
The Sherman Antitrust Act.
I mean, when you look, I just want to say this before we call it a weekend here, because this is really important. There are 7 million people on Twitter. There are 2 billion people on Facebook. Facebook needs to be busted up, just like the radio companies, need to be busted up. This is ridiculous. And Facebook's thing is, we're a tech company. We're not a publisher. You have become the largest publisher in the world of news. Fake news, phony news, real news, and you have no people sitting there doing the hard work of fact-checking what is passing as news. This is exactly what happened in radio. This is exactly the same thing. And radio said, we're not news publishers. Okay, we trolling opinions and music. And because you think you like this vehicle, you don't say anything when they transfer all this power to them. And they control everything that you see, read, and hear. 7 million on Twitter, that's a lot. 2 billion on Facebook. Facebook doesn't even know how much money it made off of political ads. That tells you they're too big, too freaking big, and they are the largest news publisher in the world. We need trust busting. That's what we need. This deregulation, let me tell you something. You used to have a license to hold a microphone. In my day, you had to be licensed. And if you defame somebody, you were seriously prosecuted. God knows. Not anymore. Buy a Stinking Podcast. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a Stinking Podcast.